Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's Tech Intel webinar. We're so glad that you are here with us. I'm Anne Marie Molinari Sanders, and I am going to be your host today. And before I introduce our presenter this morning, I want to just make sure that you all know you're in the right place. This morning is Can You Say the Word? Vocabulary.com. And do you know the word? And I'm already blanking on the title, but it is, have you heard the word about vocabulary.com part 1? And our presenter this morning is Claudette Sessions, and I'm going to introduce her in just a minute. So I am pleased at this time to introduce our guest presenter today, Claudette Sessions. I realized that for all the years that I've been hosting Tech Intel, which is almost 6 years at this point, I realized that we've never had Claudette Session present, and I'm so excited. So Claudette Session is an instructional coordinator, trainer, an ESL, and an internationally trained professional career navigator for Region 5 Education Service Center, which is near Beaumont, Texas. She teaches English language learners at all levels and directs the newly established Center for Internationally Trained Professionals on the campus of Lamar State College, Port Arthur. My husband's alma mater, by the way, Claudette. I don't know if I ever told you that. Claudette is a member of the Texas AEL SIP cohort and the Center of Applied Linguistics Standard Setting Committee for the forthcoming Best Literacy 2.0 and Best Plus 3.0 assessments. She frequently presents pre-conferences and breakout sessions for local and state and national literacy conferences. And she is a frequent trained PD contract trainer and does many trainings for us. So at this time, please everyone, give a warm welcome to Claudette in the chat pod, and we will get started. Go ahead, Claudette.
Hello, everyone, and good morning again, and welcome to part 1 of this Tech Intel entitled, Have You Heard the Word About Vocabulary.com? Today, we are going to dialogue about the importance and benefits of developing a good vocabulary. We will explore and discuss the learning features of vocabulary.com, and we will engage in real time with the question, spelling, and jam components of this application. We are going to start our pursuit of these objectives today with some chatterfalls. Now, in case you are not familiar with the term, a chatterfall is when we all send our chat box responses at the same time. So I am going to reveal a series of statements about vocabulary. If you agree with the statements, place an A in the chat box for agree. If you disagree, please place a D in the chat box, but do not send your responses until I count to 3. That way, we all hit send at the same time, and we create what looks like a waterfall, but it's called a chatterfall because it's happening in the chat box. Now, all of the statements will begin with this preface. A good vocabulary can. Here's the first one. A good vocabulary can improve one's writing. Place A in the chat for agree, D for disagree, and wait for the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh boy, it's raining A's. A lot of us agree. Here's the second statement. A good vocabulary can give language learners confidence. 1, 2, 3. Another shower of A's. A good vocabulary can foster college and career readiness? 1, 2, 3. The forecast says it's still raining A's. Here's the next statement. A good vocabulary can enable one to communicate effectively. 1, 2, 3. Looks like it's raining A's again. Here are a few more. A good vocabulary can help one reason and explain reasoning. 1, 2, 3. Another A, rain shower. How about this one? A good vocabulary can improve reading comprehension. 1, 2, 3. Another shower of A's. Just 2 more. A good vocabulary can foster on-the-job success. 1, 2, 3. Still raining A's. Wonderful. Now, here's the last one. A good vocabulary can increase comprehension of spoken messages. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Looks like we all need our umbrellas out for the A's. Now, like us, thank you all for participating in the Chatterfall. Like us, literacy experts, researchers, and scholars agree with all these statements. They also agree that teaching vocabulary greatly involves context and repetition. That is, it involves teaching what learners need to know about the words they're using, and then providing them opportunities to use the words multiple times. Now, these same literacy experts and scholars encourage us as instructors to give relevant examples by using target vocabulary words in sentences and context that are meaningful to students, to provide multiple examples to allow everyone to connect and relate to the word, and to provide opportunities for students to master an understanding of new vocabulary in context through hearing, saying, reading, and writing. And now the good news for us is that there is an application to help us with all of these things and more. Vocabulary.com is all about growing strong readers, writers, and thinkers by going beyond basic definitions of words to teaching for depth of knowledge, understanding, and retention. By a show of hands, do we have any vocabulary.com users here with us today? Are any of you already using this program with your students? I don't see any hands. No users? No worries, because today we're going to take a deep dive into this program and we're going to see how it works. I do want to mention that today we will be looking only at the many free features of vocabulary.com. There are some administrative activities that are available to instructors, but those come at a cost, and so we will not address them in this Tech and Tell. Now, first of all, vocabulary.com is intended to serve learners from 5th grade to adulthood. So that means for our low beginning literacy students, whether they're ABE, ACE, or ESL students, this application may not be so user-friendly, but certainly for our high beginning, our intermediate, and advanced students, they will find it very useful. So how does this work? Vocabulary.com combines a dictionary with an adaptive learning game. It uses what's called adaptive vocabulary instruction. And that just simply means that as you play along answering the questions, vocabulary.com figures out which words you know and which ones you need help with based on the responses that you are giving. And then practice is provided until you master all of your words. Additionally, as you master your words and as you answer the questions correctly, the new words that you are presented become more and more difficult. This application teaches words through 10 question types, and we'll look at those 10 question types in just a moment here in the PowerPoint and also live on the site. And very importantly for us, vocabulary.com includes the vocabulary that represents the academic and business vocabulary that's needed to be successful in those environments, in academic and in business environments. And that is important for us as adult educators because that is exactly how this application aligns with our Texas AEL Content Standards version 3. Just as a reminder, the content standards, of course, represent the knowledge and the skills that our learners need at the exit level as they move from level to level, stage to stage in ESL and ELA, and of course in math as well. What you see here on this screen are just a few of the benchmarks that I pulled from the ESL standards. But these benchmarks show how vocabulary.com addresses our academic and business environment goals for our students. Gain increasing command of academic and work-related vocabulary. Use a wide range of vocabulary, including synonyms, antonyms, precise knowledge, and phrasal verbs on a variety of topics. Orally demonstrate mastery of broad and deep vocabulary appropriate for use in a variety of formal and informal settings. Recognize word families to develop vocabulary in writing. All of these benchmarks are addressed by vocabulary.com. Here are a few more. Comprehend spoken language that uses specialized or technical vocabulary and complex grammatical structures. Read, comprehend, and use increasingly complex print and digital text for a variety of purposes, about a variety of topics, and in a variety of settings. And comprehend and participate in complex spoken communication. And again, these are a few that I pulled from the ESL benchmarks, but if you look at the ELA benchmarks as well, you'll find an equal or even more, or even larger rather, number of standards and benchmarks that are addressed through vocabulary.com. If you're not familiar with the standards, or if you haven't seen the latest version, version 3, Anne-Marie has placed a link in the chat box. You can capture that link, and then when you have available time, you can download the entire content of the standards. You can download the parts that most apply to your teaching area and review them. I'll also mention that TrainPD provides webinars and also live trainings for the standards. Now, we've talked so far about how vocabulary.com works and how it aligns with the standards. So I'm just going to pause to ask you if there are any questions you have so far.
Claudette, Claudette, let's just wait and see, but I want to let you know that everybody, I did put the link to the standards in the chat pod, and then Claudette, I let them know that ELA subarea 1.2 addresses vocabulary development. So if you're looking for the the ELA standard, I put it in the chat pod form. And I don't see any questions yet.
So I mentioned that there are 10 question types in vocabulary.com. You see the 10 types here, and I'm going to show you and take you through each one as an example. There's a synonym question, which simply shows a word and then asks you as the learner to pick the word that is closest in meaning. Likewise, there's an antonym question, and here you're shown a word and asked to pick out the opposite of the word. There's a definition question. They show a word and you pick out the definition from multiple options. There's something for everyone here and for every learning style. There's also an image question for visual learners. So they show a picture and a key word, and the learner selects the picture that matches the word. There's a fill in the blank question where you read the sentence and based on the context, select the word that is correct or that correctly completes the sentence. You'll notice here, and you'll see this when we go onto the site, a source. Vocabulary.com for all of the questions and all of the sentences used in the application, they pull them from published articles in magazines, in newspapers, and our literature. And you can actually click on this and it will take you to that actual article where the sentence is found or where the question is found. Or it'll take you to a website like Amazon where you can purchase the book and actually read the entire story. There's a sentence definition question where they show a sentence with a highlighted word and you pick the correct definition of the word using the context clues of the sentence. There's a sentence synonym question where again, there's a sentence with a highlighted word, but this time you pick a word that could be substituted for that highlighted word based on your knowledge of the word. There's also a polysemous sentence synonym question, and this is used for words that have multiple meanings or that can be used in multiple parts of speech. So here the target word is yoga. And so you have two different meanings. You have yoga as the Hindu discipline that's aimed at training the consciousness for a state of perfect spiritual insight. And then you have yoga, which applies to a system of exercises to promote control of the body and mind. So it tests your knowledge of the different or the multiple meanings of words. You have an apply the meaning question, where they ask you a question containing the word, and based on your knowledge of the word, you select the correct answer. So for example, where would you most likely find a tattoo? Based on your knowledge of what a tattoo is, you would select on a person's skin. You notice here that you can also get hints, and we'll talk about these hints and the options for the hints once we get into the live application. And then finally, there's a spelling question. They'll show you the definitions of the word and you can hear the word pronounced and you spell it out. And it gives you multiple opportunities to get the spelling correct. These 10 question types that you just saw and that are here in this list are presented over and over again for each word until mastery is achieved. So that brings to mind the question, what determines mastery? Well, on vocabulary.com, mastery depends on several factors, including how many meanings a word has, how many questions about that word you get right or wrong, and then how many other words you are learning at the same time. So obviously, if you choose to practice a list of, say, 10 words, then mastery will take a shorter amount of time than if you choose to practice a list of 20 words. Because what vocabulary.com does is that it spreads the time you are dedicating to mastery over the entire list of words. Now, the really neat thing is that even when you master a word, that doesn't mean the word disappears forever. Vocabulary.com will continually put that word into your learning program to keep it fresh in your mind and to help you to retain it. Now, it's one thing to talk about all of this, but now we're going to get ready to move over to the app to actually see it in action. But before we do, I want to pause to ask again if you have any questions, having seen the 10 question types and heard a little about vocabulary.com. Are there any questions you would like to ask at this time? If so, please put them in the chat or raise your hand and we can invite you to unmute. Okay, if not, please feel free to ask at any time. Let us know by placing them in the chat. We've moved over now to vocabulary.com. And when you first log in, you are greeted by your dashboard, which looks like this. Your dashboard contains several important elements. First, the challenge. And this is your learning program. This contains the words that when you first start out, and we'll check this out in a minute, the computer will give you to find out what you know and what you don't know and start formulating your learning program. There's often a featured activity, and each time you log in, this featured activity will be different. There's an option to participate in a vocabulary jam, which is a competitive game where you join what are called vocabularians from around the world, practicing words in real time and competing at the same time. So you join a team with people you don't know, and you're answering questions to practice vocabulary. And then finally, you have this quick list function. Now in part 2, we're really going to focus on this quick list function. Today, we're going to look at it briefly, but it will be an important part of what we do next week as we talk about our TSI students, our GED students, our IET students, our ESL students, and all of those we serve in adult ed. You'll also notice the menu here. This learn function does the same thing as challenge. So if you click learn, you'll go to the same place you will click when you go to challenge, which is to your learning program. The dictionary takes you to the dictionary, which is behind the functioning of the words and the questions presented in vocabulary.com. We'll look at that today. And then again, this list function takes you to the list, which we'll look at in depth next week. This test prep function we're not going to talk about because this comes at a cost, but it's a prep program for the SAT exam for high school students that they can enroll in, but there's a little tuition again associated with it. So let's check out this challenge. So this is a brand new account that I set up for this Tech and Tell. So when I enter my challenge, these first questions are going to be to find out how much I know, what I do know, what I don't know, and then the computer is going to start its brain work to figure out what types of words it needs to give me. This first question is that image question we talked about. You see here the word baker. So we're going to select the picture that corresponds to baker, and look what happens. Once you select your answer, underneath, you first get an accolade, and often underneath this word of congratulations, you will have an explanation of why that's the answer. Since this is an image question, there's not one this time. Notice also what appears to the right. Vocabulary.com will give you additional information about the word. It will give you additional examples of how to use it in a sentence or in a context. And often it includes a little humor along with the process. So this one says, if you're a baker, it's your job to bake bread, cake, or other baked goods. A baker usually works in a bakery. Professional bakers make pastries, hearty loaves of bread, or cupcakes, depending on their specialty. If you're an amateur baker, you may bake cinnamon rolls or macaroons at home in your spare time. I'm getting hungry here. A baker's dozen is a common phrase meaning 13 of something. In other words, a dozen plus one extra. From the old baker's practice of adding an additional loaf to an order, which became the retail seller's only profit. So it gives you some historical information about the word as well as examples. Now, if this is a word that I want to practice very often, it's a high priority word for me, I can set the learning priority to high. And that means that vocabulary.com will let me see it frequently in different contexts, in sentence definition questions, in antonym questions, and fill in the blank questions. If this is a word that I don't want to focus on, it's pretty easy for me, and I don't want to see it very often, I can set the priority level at low. And if I want vocabulary.com to determine how often I see the word based on my progress, then I can leave it set at auto. And Lilia, I hope I'm pronouncing your word correctly, is asking, are the students able to hear this read to them? Yes, Lilia, for most of the questions, for all of the questions, I'm sorry. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. Thank you for asking. Now, the arrow means I'm ready to go on. Here's another image question, tattoo. So I'm going to select the correct picture. And again, I get additional information about the word. I'm going to continue on. And here, this is a fill in the blank question. So this is one where I have to read the sentence and based on the context of the sentence, select the correct answer. So this one says, onlookers gazed from a cliff as molten blank, reaching heights of up to 30 meters, spewed from the volcano's central crater. I have 4 answer choices here. All right, so help me out with this one. Do I want 1, 2, 3, or 4? 1 being nutrient, 2 plaster, fiber 3, lava 4. Place your answer in the chat. Do I want 1, 2, 3, or 4? Daryl says 4. Does anyone agree? Jane agrees. Raynell agrees. Romina agrees. Sandra agrees. Oh, lots of agreement. Now, watch this trick. There are 3 different ways I can select my answer. Obviously, I can click in the dot by lava, or I can do what you just did. I can select the number 4 on my keypad, or I can select the letter D, where this one is A, this one is B, this one is C, this one is D. Although you don't see those options, those are options. So to show you how this works, I'm not going to click by lava, I'm going to select 4. And I think because I am, there it is. I think because I am in the share mode, it's not accepting it. So I'm going to have to click the button. But if you're not in share mode here, it will register if you collect the numbers, because that's how my students and I always select ours. Instead of clicking the dot, because many of them have touch computers, we just use the keypad. Notice my accolade appears and it gives me clarification. In this question, lava is a noun that means rock that in its molten form issues from volcanoes. Oh, I just discovered why my 4 didn't take. It's because my cursor was in my chat box. That explains it. So we'll try it on the next one. Notice the explanation. Is lava flowing through your street? Then you'd better run. There's the humor. Lava is the hot liquid rock that pours from an erupting volcano. Under the Earth's crust is molten rock called magma, along with explosive gases. Under the right conditions, the gases send the magma up through volcanoes, which act as vents in the surface of the Earth. When magma reaches the surface, it becomes lava. Over time, the hot molten lava cools and becomes very hard. Layers of lava eventually form mountains. Yes, that's an excellent question, Esther. She's saying there are several words in this sentence that may not be understood either. Is there a shortcut for students to look up those words? Wonderful question, Esther. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 different shortcuts. So first of all, if they don't know the words, they can click here where it says dictionary, and they can type the word in here. So for example, we had the word gazed, all right? So I can type in gazed, and some words are not what we call teachable or learnable in vocabulary.com because they don't have enough questions created for it yet. So let me find another word that was there. I'm going to go back to the challenge and let's say, let's try crater, okay? In case they don't understand crater. I'll go back to dictionary. I'll type in crater and there it is. All right. So if the word is teachable or learnable, they can look it up in the dictionary. but there are over 15,000 words that are teachable or learnable. But they will tell you, and you'll see it in a minute when we make our own list, that some words have not been formatted with questions yet, and so they cannot be quote unquote taught. Did that answer your question, Esther? So I'm going to take us back to the challenge now. All right, great, thank you. The other way, what if you don't know what these answer choices mean? Well, if I don't know what these answer choices are, you see the magnifying glass here? This is look it up. I can click here and look what happens. It takes me right to the dictionary and I get information about what that word means. If I want to return to my learning program, there are two things I can do. I can click here on vocabulary.com and it'll take me back. I can click on learn and it'll take me back and then just go back to my challenge and I end up in the right place. And then Olga comments that, yes, there's also still the actual book dictionary. Yeah, the one that many of us actually grew up with and the one that I still love and prefer to use. Thank you, Olga. Now, someone asked before, if I don't want to read all of this information, will vocabulary.com read it to me? Yes, it will. And we'll try that out on the next question. Here it is. It says, Akhenaten, a pharaoh who pioneered the idea of monotheistic religion, had his monumental memory demolished. In this sentence, pharaoh means, all right, do we want 1, 2, 3, or 4? Tell me in the chat box. Look at the answer choices. Do we want 1, 2, 3, or 4? I'm getting some 2s, all right? So I'm going to move my cursor out of the chat and see if this will, yay, it worked that time. Notice I didn't click the circle. I just selected 2 on my computer and voila, my answer. Now say I've been studying a long time and I don't want to read this. I can turn on the spoken audio. It will read the question and the explanation for me. So let's take a listen.
Spoken audio is now on. Question 4. Press the R key to repeat the description of this word. Press the Q key to repeat the question, or press the space bar to continue.
So we want it to repeat the question, so I'm going to press Q.
This question is from the Washington Times. In the following sentence, what does the noun pharaoh mean? Akhenaten, a pharaoh who pioneered the idea of a monotheistic religion, had his monumental memory demolished. In this sentence, pharaoh means A. A Muslim spiritual leader. B. An ancient Egyptian king. C. A person of exceptional holiness. Or D. A person in charge of a company.
All right, so it repeated the question for me. Now I want
Press
to,
the R key to repeat the description of this word. Press the Q key to repeat the question, or press the space bar to continue.
yes, QK is for repeat and R is for the explanation. So now I'm going to press R.
In ancient Egypt, a king was known as a pharaoh. Ramses the Great, one of the most powerful pharaohs, ruled Egypt for almost 70 years. The pharaohs played important roles in both religious and everyday life. They were viewed as emissaries between mortals and gods. These monarchs were also military commanders, landowners, and tax collectors. The spiritual component of a pharaoh's job included choosing sites for new temples and leading religious ceremonies. Today, we know several pharaohs mainly from their mummified remains found in tombs by archaeologists. Pharaoh comes from an Egyptian root meaning great house.
Okay, and I'm going to turn her off now.
Spoken audio off.
She tells you everything she's doing anytime you turn her on and off. Notice here at the bottom, if you're interested in your mastery of the word, it shows here that we're 25% complete on our mastery. This is a word that does not have as multiple meanings, and so you're going to master it a lot more quickly than you would a word that has multiple meanings and different uses in different parts of speech. If I want more information on pharaoh, then I can click the dictionary and it takes me to the dictionary entry. Notice in the dictionary, if I want to add this word to a special list, I can click add to list, and then I would click new list since I don't have any list here, and it adds it to a list for me. And then if there are other words that I want to add to that list, that's what I would do each time. Just select add to list. Now notice this neat feature of the dictionary as well. It'll show you the different uses. And like I said, this one just has that one definition. And so the entry here is short. I can again change my priority level while I'm in the dictionary level area. And another neat feature is I can select the different context in which this word can be used. So for example, if I want to see how Pharaoh might be used in a context related to business, I would click on business. No examples there for this word. What about arts and culture? Ooh, there are some examples. What about sports? I don't know if we're going to find an example for sports. What about technology? No, not for this word. What about fiction? Not for that word. What about news? Not for that word either. But we'll see when we move to the next word that many of those words have different contextualized examples included in vocabulary.com. If I want to just hear the word repeated, I can click here.
Pharaoh.
And Lilia is asking, of the 4 options to pick from, will the voice read the definitions for those? The voice will not read the definitions, but again, I'll show you on the next question, Lilia. Well, not this one, because this is just a definition question. Serve means to lose color, as if in fear, be employed in the military, prove superior, make a mistake, or be incorrect. Let's say that we really don't know the answer to this one. Let's see what the hint option will do. This will eliminate 2. All right. So I have 2 left, and I can select my correct answer from those 2. Let's look at one. And after every 5 correct, if you get 5 consecutive correct, this is the gaming function of it. If you're concerned about the points, it'll give you an award and bonus points as well. Unaffordable means, and this is another definition one. I'll show you those, how to find out the definition of the word one more time. Let's say we don't know the meaning of this one. Let's try the word in the wild hint. This hint will show you how this word is used in different contexts. So here, unaffordable. If we don't change the economy and our society, it's going to be unaffordable. This comes from the Seattle Times. Let's click that link, and it's going to take us to the actual article where that sentence was originally published. And you can read the article if you like and see exactly the entire context in which it was used. I'm going to move us back now to vocab.com. Let's see if this word has other usage. Fiction, no examples in fiction. What about arts and culture? None. What about news? Ooh, there's an example. That's the same one. What about, let's see, sports? Let's try business. There's a business example that comes from the Washington Post. And again, I can click Washington Post and it takes me to the article. And I can read the article and find the context. So there are lots of ways you can extend what learners are doing in this activity. If you go to the context where the word was used, and you can create additional activities from that. Yeah, Yoliette, she agrees. Great extension. All right. And let's see. So I've used up my sources. Unaffordable. So we're going to select too expensive for someone to buy. And it's giving me lots of definitions now. Office means, so we're going to eliminate and we're going to select being an official. The opposite of simple is, we're going to select tangled. And here, this is one where you have a word used in a context and you have to select the meaning for that word. So this one says, she said we're all foreigners. And this is a team where everybody unites. Recall the Ethiopian player. In this sentence, unites means, and we're going to select the first one. And I'm still trying to find one that has those magnifying glasses for you to show you that example. In which situation would you be expected to counter a statement? And we're going to select during a debate. And I'm trying to also get us to the end of this round. So we're at the end of the round. Now you'll get to see what happens at the end of the round. You get another accolade, sometimes several, depending on how accurate your responses are. And this shows you your progress for the entire round. On this side, you see your mastery of the words. Some of the words say 0. So if we asked for a hint, then we're not given credit for any form of mastery of that word. You also see your point total if you're concerned with the gaming aspect of it. My students really don't care about the points. They're just concerned with the words, but that's just a part of the app. Tiffany says, I like the opposite word for simple, tangled. That has been my week. Okay. Let me pause to ask if you have any questions at this time. And I'm just going to, I'm not going to read this, but I'm going to show you an example of when you get it wrong. It says try again. There they are. So for whoever asked, will it read you the definitions of the word? The answer is no, but it will allow you to look up the words post answering. And again, it takes you to the dictionary and you can read the meanings of the words. Any questions? Now, I mentioned before that, say this is a word that I really want to work on, I can add it to a list. So I'm going to click add to list and it's added to my list. Now, looking at the list feature, let's say that you have a particular group of words that you and your students have been working on, and you want to focus on those words. All you have to do, if you have those words in a list, for example, here's a list of words that my students and I worked on recently. These are some commonly confused words. You take your list, you copy it, then you move over to the list function in vocabulary.com, you paste your list, you click next step, and here it's showing you that these are the list, this is the list of words you just included, and it's giving you some information. Now, this is really kind of neat. At the bottom, pay attention. It says, we're sorry, but there are words on your list that vocabulary.com can't teach yet. Vocabulary.com, as I mentioned before, can teach over 15,000 words, but sadly, these aren't among them. So what that means is you'll see these words in the spelling exercises. You might see a fill in the blank question for them, but you're not going to see the 10 question types for these words because they just haven't been formulated yet in vocabulary.com. Now, let's say in this list, let's take the word capital. Let's say I just want to focus on several meanings of this word. I just want to focus on the meaning uppercase and the meaning a seat of government. Then I simply uncheck all of the others, and it will only teach me those 2 meanings of that word. And I can do that for each word in this list that is teachable. Notice the 3 that it told me that are not teachable, I don't have the edit function. Let's look at complement. I just want to focus on the noun function of that word. So I'm going to eliminate the 2 verbs and I'll just have the noun. I can go back at any time to edit that and add in the others if I like, or I can leave them off. Okay, so this list is totally customizable. So after I have my list here and I've edited all the words, I've decided which meanings I want. I give my list a name. So I'm going to call it commonly confused words. And then I simply click learn these words and my learning program starts. All right, stationary means what? Unmoving, huh? And then I'll go through this in rounds and rounds and rounds until I've mastered all of those words. Do you have any questions about creating a list? Now, next week, as I mentioned, we're going to look at how to use list to prepare our students for things like the GED exam or the HSE exam, for TOEFL, for TSI, for NCLEX, if you have IET students that are preparing to be nurses, or if you have internationally trained professionals that have to take NCLEX or the TOEFL. Is there an app for the phone? Yes, it does work on your phone. It does work on your tablet. Where does the teacher store put the list? So the list if you create a list, you click on vocabulary list, and then you see right here where it says my list, click there and look, there's my list. So anytime I want to go back to add words to it or to delete words from it, I just click on my list and voila, there it is. Here's another question. HSC, wonderful. Yes. Can this web? Yes. To the extent that there's vocabulary, Alberto, yes, for GED math. Here's another question. Is there a feature that lets me view the time students spend on the website activities? There is not a clock feature. There is, but in the free version. In the teacher version, which comes at a cost, yes, you can find how much time, you can find the start time and the finish time, and then you can calculate the amount of time that was spent. You can find out their progress, lots of other information. But again, all of that comes at a cost, okay? Yes, there are, and we're going to talk about that next week, Anne Marie. There are math lists, but that's for next week. Now, let me show you another really neat feature. The spelling. I talked to you about the spelling as well. So you can start a spelling bee. It says the word and it gives you definitions. So sight. Well, remember, sight, are we talking about sight, a location? Or are we talking about sight, vision? Well, I can read over here. Definition, the piece of land on which something is located. If I want it to repeat it again,
sight.
And then I just type in the spelling and yay, I got it correct. If I type it wrong, it's going to let me keep trying until it just gets exhausted and then I surrender. Okay, then I click next word.
Stationary.
Now, let's say also that I want my students to compete in a jam using these commonly confused words. I simply click on Start a Jam. All right, now I can customize my jam. How many questions? 10 is the minimum, or I can go up to 40. How hard should it be? Do I want it to be very easy? Easier than average? About average? Harder than average? Very hard. Look at that face. Let's make it about average. Do I want the game speed to be slow, normal, or fast? We'll leave it at normal. How many teams? 2 teams. Sounds good. How do I want to assign teams? Well, I just want vocabulary.com to assign them. I don't want the students to choose. And then I click Create Jam. And so what happens is the learners will go to this site. You can do this on your phone, your tablet, or on your laptop, of course, and enter this code. So let's try this. If you have a phone available, or if you want to use the device you're on, open up a window and go to vocabulary.com/jam and enter this code. As soon as you're in, we're going to see your names appearing at the bottom, just to give you a taste of how this works. So again, you may use your phone or your tablet, or just open up a window on your computer. Vocab.com. Albert's in. Alberto, I'm sorry. Alberto's in. That was fast, Alberto. You can enter anonymously. You don't have to, there's an option where it says sign in or just enter anonymously. Sister Romina is in. There's an anonymous muskrat in. It's going to give you some type of creature name. I'll let a few more get in and then we'll start jamming. And this is a part of the program that students really, really like once they've studied the words, they've gotten familiar with them, and they like to test their knowledge, and they like the competitive edge. We have an anonymous hedgehog. We have an anonymous ferret who's been added. And notice how the program is just randomly assigning you to teams. And as the host of the jam, you're invited to play along as well by clicking at the top where it says join as a player. All right, so I'm going to take those who have entered, and the rest of you can kind of watch how the jam works. We start the jam, it does a countdown, and the faster you answer, the more points you get. It says, I watched as the car drove out of sight. Notice the time, it's going by. As you answer, You see to the right of the screen, your answer coming in, and then it reveals the correct response, view, and it shows you how many points you earned for your team. And then it automatically counts down and moves you to the next question. I was able to get one person out of 200 to accept my business card in the mail. In this sentence, accept means. And again, you notice the answers coming in. You see the names. When it times out, it gives you the correct response, and it shows you the points you've earned for your team, and it shows you the total team points here. So that's the gaming function. We'll do one more question, and then we'll move back to the dashboard. Capital means, this is the AL capital. Oh, it looks like the red team is going to pull ahead. Their answers are coming in first. A seat of government. And so the red team turns out to be the winner. We're going to stop there because I'm watching the time. Now, can someone tell me, how do I get back to my dashboard? I mentioned it earlier. Can someone tell me in the chat? I'm in this jam, but I want to go back to my dashboard. How do I do that? You're still playing. Yes, I can end game, and then also remember up here, vocabulary.com. That'll always, yay, Tiffany, that'll always take me back. There I am at my dashboard again. So those are some of the features, the free features that we've looked at today of vocabulary.com. Of course, the 10 question types. We looked at the dictionary. We looked at how we can get multiple meanings of words from the dictionary. Here we have lava, and I wanted to show you, I'm going to go to the dictionary and let's see if this one from sources, let's see in business. See, yes, lava has lots of business entries. Sports, let's see. Oh, even sports. Lava is used in sports context. What about technology? Obviously. Yeah, see, this word has lots of entries for all of the different sources. Some of the words we looked at earlier did not. As I mentioned, next week, and I'm going to move us back to our PowerPoint now because time is winding down. If you do have any questions about what you've seen, please make sure to place them in the chat. But next time, we will look at, again, how we can use this with our GED, HSE curriculum, TSI to prepare students for that, to prepare our IET students or our internationally trained professionals for those certification exams that they often have to take, like the TOEFL and NCLEX, and also how well it works for reading comprehension. Regardless of what book I'm reading, I can use vocabulary.com to help me learn the new vocabulary contained within. Romina says, I signed up with vocab.com a while back as a teacher with a free trial. The trial expired, so I can't click on my classes without being asked to subscribe. Yes, that's right. Is it still possible to do the teacher features that were, no. Unless, that's why I mentioned, Romina, unless you purchase the subscription after that 30 days, unfortunately, the honeymoon is over and you can't access any of your content unless you subscribe. And if you subscribe, that content will still be available to you if you use the same login and password. And that's why we didn't talk about the teacher features today, because it is only a 30-day trial. Are there any more questions or comments? If not, if you have time between now and next week to set up a free account, be sure to set it up as a learner and not as a teacher, because that teacher one is just a trial. And next week, we're going to take an even deeper dive into the list and talk about how we can incorporate it into our curriculum. Daryl, you're saying, can I have it? I love the introduction about vocabulary. Can I have it? I'm not understanding that question. So clarify for me, Daryl. Otherwise, I think, Anne Marie, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can mention the evaluation. Thank you so much, guys, for your great participation today. I hope to see all of you next week for part 2. Anne Marie? Yes, the learner account is free forever and ever and ever until they change it.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and put the evaluation link in the chat pod, and then I'll share my screen as well. So everybody hold on, and Thank you so much, Claudette, for spending an hour with us. And I am so glad that Claudette is going to be back next week. What a wonderful resource. Don't you all agree that this is an absolutely wonderful resource? And I learned a lot, Claudette, that I did not know. I think they've updated it quite a bit. I think they continue to update that resource because there were some wonderful features that I hadn't seen before. So as we close out here in the next minute or two, before I explain the evaluation, again, I want to thank Claudette for being here with us and sharing her expertise, and she will be back next week. So if you have not registered, please do so in the portal. And she will pick up right where she left off today. And I want to see if there's any questions before we go, because we like to just hold on here for a few minutes. Let me scan here, see if there's any questions. And lots of thank yous, Claudette. Lots of thank yous. And let me see here. So I was going to ask Daryl. Daryl, I'm not sure if we answered your question about can you have it, but I do want to share with you that once this webinar goes through the post-production process, you can register for the webinar again in the PD portal, and you'll have access to an accessible version of this PowerPoint in PDF, okay? So if that's maybe what you were asking, I'm not sure, but that is, that'll be available to you. And Tiffany says, I love listening to Claudette. Yes, I do too. And I always learn something all the time. So let me see, any other questions? And Claudette, that was Daryl's question. So he said yes about that was his question. I don't see any other questions. So it's 2 after 12:30, 2 minutes after. I'm sure everybody would like to have some lunch. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. I want to thank Dr. Olga Escamilla for joining us today and helping with tech support. And again, I want to give a big shout out to Claudette. Everybody, let's use our reaction buttons and give her a big shout out. Everybody, let's give her, oh, that wasn't a good one. Let's clap or do whatever you want to do. There we go. There we go. All right, guys, come on. Let's just give this, oh, a heart. Oh, I love the heart. Let's do the heart. Okay, that's a great idea. All right, awesome. Flowers, Claudette, you're getting flowers and hearts and clapping. So that's awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today.